Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the implications of the legal action that has now been begun by the EU regarding the UK government's breach of international law yet again, and what seems to be the realistic options that Boris Johnson and David Frost have. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news in politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the EU has now issued formal proceedings against the UK for our unilateral change to the Northern Ireland Protocol. If we persist for as long as it takes for the legal action to run its course, and I don't know how long that would be, then we will end up facing trade sanctions. It is an odd position that Boris Johnson finds himself in, because in order to avoid the embarrassment of seeing trade with Northern Ireland suffer, a part of the UK he doesn't care tuppence about, he is going to invite sanctions that will hit businesses much closer to what he really calls home. The argument, of course, is that the Northern Ireland Protocol is incredibly damaging to internal UK trade. Now, absolutely it is. That absolutely is. Nobody is denying that. Where there is a serious disagreement is in the proposed solution, because the real problem is that we don't have the systems in place. It's not that the Northern Ireland Protocol in concept won't work. It's the only thing that will work. It's just we do not have the systems in place to manage those new customs arrangements. Now, this is very common when a new trading arrangement is agreed between other countries. The standard procedure is an implementation period in order to allow you to put those systems in place. But we refuse to go for this, and we continue to refuse to go for this. And we should never have left the single market until we had those systems in place. It was an act of unpatriotic recklessness to do so. If the Conservatives wanted us to leave the single market sooner, they should have put in the systems more quickly. Bear in mind, we have had the time. France have their systems in place. The Dutch have their systems in place, and so on. Everyone has their systems in place apart from the UK. We all had the same amount of time. And it's as simple as that. But they didn't. They wanted to pretend that there are no negative consequences to leaving the EU. Well, there are. Big ones. Now Johnson is in a politically tight spot. If he complies with his international obligations, then he faces political pressure back home for all the damage that he's causing with his Brexit to the internal UK market, as they call it, even though there's no such thing. If he smooths over some of that damage, by breaking international obligations, as he's doing at the moment, then he invites international condemnation. It's St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, a day when the heads of government of Ireland and the United States tend to have face-to-face meetings. This year it's going to be different, a couple of reasons. One, I gather it's going to be held remotely. Two, the president is very pro-Irish, even by the standards of most US presidents. We will inevitably see a statement about discussions concerning the situation in Northern Ireland. That, to me, seems absolutely inevitable. It will not bode well for Boris Johnson's stated strategy. As for the Brexit situation, if Johnson does not agree to implement the withdrawal agreement, then the treaty could essentially fall into ruin, with not much left of it. Now, exactly what some hardliners in the Conservative Party and most definitely the DUP want to see. But then Johnson would have another problem, because this scenario would be the no-deal Brexit that he could never get through Parliament. Because this is how a no-deal Brexit still happens. People think, well, because what the deal, we avoided the no-deal Brexit. No, we didn't. So this is how it can happen. You sign up to agreements with the EU in order to get what you need from Parliament, because Westminster was never going to vote through a no-deal Brexit. Then you mug everyone off by not complying with those agreements. At the same time, you blame the EU for the breakdown, but that will cut no ice where it matters, the international community. Because bear in mind, what the people of Britain think now, irrelevant to the international community. What even Conservative backbenchers think, irrelevant. Only matters for Boris Johnson. A number of experts have pointed out that Chancellor Rishi Sunak has just announced a budget that can only work if we see a massive boost to our economy. He's entirely reliant upon it. Conservative MPs were quite pleased with the budget because although Rishi Sunak's saying, look, we're going to need to put up taxes to maintain these spending promises, Conservative MPs are publicly saying, well, no, because if the economy boosts, actually we won't need to up the taxes. It'll be fine. We'll be okay. That's what they're pinning their hopes on. They want their spending promises, but they don't want to see tax increases to pay for it. That's the only thing keeping the Conservative Party together at the moment. But that only works if the economy picks up massively. Now, I could argue that any form of Brexit means that this is unlikely to occur, simply because all economic models show that. Nobody is able to point to a single sector of the economy which will gain, much less enough of it to represent an overall boost to cover for the losses in other parts of the economy. The other thing to consider is the government have not published a plan for boosting the economy. They don't have a plan. How can you arrange for the economy to be boosted in the ultra-competitive international stage if you have no plan to do so? It's just hope. They're just hoping. But if there ever were a cunning plan to boost our economy, and like I say, there isn't one in publication, then it will definitely be scuppered by starting a trade war with the EU and the US. If that happens, the Conservatives' budget disappears up their own arseholes. In addition, they invite Labour to actually hit the Brexit debate, from a position of strength. Currently, now, it's untrue to say Labour are not criticising Brexit. They are, but they're whispering their criticism through shadow ministers rather than bellowing it through the leader. Perhaps they think that this path that the government are taking now is actually intended and they're just waiting for their moment. I think I'm being generous there. But this is definitely a path that many in the Conservative Party want Boris Johnson to walk down. At some time, before summer as well, he's going to need to make a choice. He's going to need to move. Now, we know he doesn't like doing that. He likes to maintain that benefits of both sides are going to occur at the same time. But at some point, he has to move again. Now, he will either keep down that path and risk Joe Biden knocking him out when they meet at the G7, or back down yet again and risk the ERG doing the same. Of course, what I've little doubt is that David Frost is telling him that the EU will concede some ground and then Johnson can re-engage with the protocol whilst claiming a victory. Now, sure, that'd play well to the public, but I have no idea how he thinks that's possible. Because the bottom line is that, as I said at the start, we're not ready to implement the Northern Ireland Protocol. So whatever concessions Frost imagines he will get from the EU, that will not suddenly change that. We will only be ready when we have our systems in place. They have nothing to do with the EU. On the other hand, the EU aren't going to agree to simply remove the bits of the protocol that Johnson doesn't like. So where does he think we go from here? You know, I would seriously love to know what the plan is because the situation is just so polarised. I'm hesitant to say that this is what could be the beginning of the end for Johnson's government because it really should have already happened some time ago. But he does not seem to be in a position to simultaneously keep the Tory hardliners on side, essential for his position as head of government, as well as have a presence on the world stage. Because the annoying thing is that there are aspects of the protocol that aren't working, that need tweaking, that he could absolutely deal with. The protocol is essentially about protecting the EU single market whilst preserving the Good Friday Agreement. So where there are impediments to goods being traded between Britain and Northern Ireland, it's because of a risk to the single market. But there have been examples of where goods have been blocked that don't actually represent a serious risk to the single market. So what's needed is what people call a proportionate response, based on the magnitude of the risk. And the EU have been fine to discuss ways to resolve this. You know, the joint committee, that is the purpose of it, to discuss these things. The problem is we're not engaging with the joint committee. Now, being fair to them, we didn't spend enough time genuinely talking about the protocol because we spent most of last year digging our heels in about monitors, so very little was discussed. And this year, again, when we're supposed to be sitting down and going, okay, what about this situation? Let's come up with a solution for that, and then this situation and so on, and pick away at these things. We've been spending the year threatening to throw the whole thing in the bin. You know, we should be using the joint committee to discuss solutions and implement them. Because the situation was The Northern Ireland Protocol at the moment is a very blunt instrument because it was set up very quickly because we insisted on no implementation period. So we couldn't come up with the lots of little solutions to individual problems. And what we should have done is to extend the transition period while we did this so that our systems would have been in place when we left the single market. But given where we are, we certainly can only solve this through discussion. Unfortunately, Boris Johnson is now advised by someone who thinks you only extract concessions through blackmail. This is the same guy, by the way, who negotiated the most damaging international agreements in our history. I think we can probably dismiss his negotiating strategies, don't you? Unfortunately, the Prime Minister doesn't see it that way. So he has chosen learning lessons the hard way. And of course, it will reflect very poorly on the rest of us as well. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.